back, the Washington Post reports that former US National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was warned in advance about his contacts with Russia's ambassador. Flynn was forced to resign for misleading the vice president about those conversations. The Post, citing both current and former US officials, says the Trump transition team warned Flynn that any such contact would likely be monitored by US intelligence. Well, CNN is working to confirm that. US President Donald Trump will take his first overseas trip later this month. His stops will include Saudi Arabia, Israel and the Vatican. Our diplomatic editor Nic Robertson is joining us now for more on all of this. Nic, he's been in office more than 100 days, still hasn't taken a trip overseas. Many are calling him a homebody, but that is about to change.
It's going to change in a big way. I mean, a lot of people would have expected what would have been typical of previous presidents is that they would either go to Mexico or to Canada as a first visit. That often happens within the first couple of months. President Trump is entirely breaking with that tradition. He's got the stops, as you say, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He'll go to Jerusalem and meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu there. He'll go to the Vatican and meet with the Pope. And after that, he goes to Brussels for a NATO meeting. And then he goes to Italy for a G7 summit meeting. So the headlines there kind of belie the number of leaders that he's actually going to meet on that trip. I've been sort of totting it up, and I've come up with a figure of 37 different leaders, because you have the 28 members of NATO, the G7, there's 6 other nations there. When he's in Saudi Arabia, he'll meet with the GCC, the Gulf Community Council Cooperation Council leaders there as well. There's 6 of those total, including Saudi Arabia. So this is going to be a visit where he's going to meet a lot of different people, but the key parts of it we can expect in Saudi Arabia and Israel, at least the Middle Eastern focus, will be on developing and building that coalition of allies to fight against ISIS. U.S. Secretary of Defense James Mattis, when he was in Saudi Arabia last month, described Saudi Arabia as a key pillar for United States security in the region. So a big ally looking to wield a big weight there. Important for the Saudis that President Trump is going there first, and then on to Israel as well, where President Trump has said bringing peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians is important. But there's an unstated nation here, Iran, that's going to look at President Trump going to both Saudi and Israel, knowing that both of those countries are very opposed to Iran, and knowing that President Trump has come into office saying that he would dismantle as a priority the nuclear deal with Iran. Iran will be watching his visit quite warily, I would imagine.
Certainly cramming a lot into this first trip. You mentioned the NATO visit. It wasn't that long ago that President Trump, when he was a candidate for the presidency, was calling NATO obsolete. How do you think he'll be received when he heads there?
You know, this is going to be a very interesting visit. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson visited NATO, the foreign ministers there, just about a month ago. I was there. The language that was used by Tillerson was very strong and quite demanding, that the NATO allies there all contribute this 2% of GDP towards defense spending. And if they weren't doing it already, and only 5 out of the 28 do, and if they weren't, then they needed to get in place plans by this May visit by President Trump to say how they were going to do it, because otherwise, Tillerson said, Trump's visit wouldn't be a success. And I think we're going to see perhaps in NATO a break with the normal choreography of the way that President Trump, or the way that U.S. presidents handle these visits. We may see President Trump, despite saying that NATO is no longer obsolete, being a little bit more low-key, other than to continue with that demand that this money is made forthcoming.
All right, Nic Robertson, international diplomatic editor, thank you very much.